When that thick envelope of vellum paper arrived at my desk at the Daily Grind, the coffee shop where I served lattes with little leaf designs to grumpy hipsters, I really thought my life was about to change. And it was. Just not in the way I imagined. My name is Clementine Clem Fitzgerald. I'm 27 years old, work 3 side jobs, and live in a Brooklyn apartment the size of a closet. Oh, and I have an apparently invisible talent for interior design that nobody except my mother seemed to appreciate. Until that invitation arrived. The presence of Miss Clementine Fitzgerald is requested at the wedding of Dominic Ashford Sterling III, it said in embossed gold letters. Dominic Sterling, Manhattan's youngest billionaire, the man who graced magazine covers for being handsome, rich, and according to all the tabloids, absolutely insufferable. My heart raced. I had decorated his office 6 months ago, a freelance project I landed by pure luck when the lead designer had appendicitis. He barely looked at me during the entire project, just criticized every choice with that icy stare of someone evaluating stocks on the market. But the final result? Perfect. Even he had to admit it, though he did so with the enthusiasm of someone reading medicine labels. And now he was inviting me to his wedding. "This is networking, Clem," I shouted at my reflection in the mirror that night, trying on the only decent dress I owned, a navy blue number I bought at a thrift store that had a persistent mothball smell. "He must have been impressed with your work. There will be important people there. Potential clients. This is your chance." My best friend, Juniper, Jules to those close to her, wasn't so convinced when I called her. "Clem, are you sure this guy isn't a psychopath? He once fired an assistant for bringing skim milk coffee instead of whole milk." "Those are just rumors," I defended, even though I myself had witnessed him make an intern cry for using the wrong font in a presentation. "Maybe he's different outside of work. People are complex, Jules." Spoiler. Dominic Sterling wasn't complex. He was consistently horrible in any setting. But at that moment, holding that invitation like it was Willy Wonka's golden ticket, I was certain of one thing. This would be the opportunity of my lifetime. I would go to that wedding, impress important people, finally get real clients, and stop drawing little leaves in milk foam. What an idiot I was. Because 3 weeks later, when I walked through the doors of that absurdly luxurious mansion in the Hamptons, wearing my mothball dress and sky-high hopes, I would discover something that would make me question every decision I'd made in life. There was no bride waiting at the altar. The bride was me. The Hamptons mansion looked like something out of a fairy tale, if fairy tales were designed by architects with unlimited budgets and a vendetta against subtlety. White columns, crystal chandeliers visible through floor-to-ceiling windows, and enough roses to supply a small country's Valentine's Day demand. I stepped out of my beat-up Honda Civic, which looked absolutely ridiculous parked between a Bentley and a Maserati, and smoothed down my thrift store dress. My hands were shaking. Not from nerves about networking. Not from excitement about meeting potential clients. From the Instagram story I had just seen on my phone. Dominic Sterling's wedding. Except every single photo showed the venue, the flowers, the ice sculptures shaped like swans. Not one showed the bride. Not her dress, not her face. Nothing. "Maybe she's just very private," I muttered, climbing the marble steps. A woman in a sharp black suit intercepted me at the door. "Name?" "Clementine Fitzgerald." She checked her iPad, and her expression shifted from professional to something I couldn't quite read. Relief? Panic? A mixture of both? "Oh, thank God. You're here. Come with me." Quickly. "Wait, what?" But she was already gripping my elbow, practically dragging me through a side entrance, down a hallway lined with paintings that probably cost more than my entire existence, and into a room that looked like a bridal suite exploded in it. White silk, tulle, flowers, and at least 6 people in headsets looking absolutely frantic. "Is this her?" A woman with a severe bun and a measuring tape around her neck rushed toward me. "This is Clementine Fitzgerald," the suited woman confirmed. "Finally, we have 30 minutes. Let's go, people." "Wait," I practically screamed. "What is happening? Where's the bride? Where's the wedding party? I'm just a guest." "Guest?" The suited woman looked confused. Then she pulled out her iPad again, scrolling frantically. Her face went pale. "Oh no, oh no, no, no." A door on the far side of the room burst open and Dominic Ashford Sterling III strode in like he owned the place. Which, technically, he did. He looked exactly like his photos. Tall, sharp jawline, dark hair perfectly styled, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than my car. But his eyes, those cold gray eyes that had made interns cry, were currently blazing with something that looked like fury mixed with desperation. "Is she ready?" he demanded. Then he saw me. Really saw me. His expression cycled through confusion, recognition, and what might have been horror in the span of 2 seconds. "You," he said flatly. "Me," I squeaked. "Mr. Sterling, I think there's been some kind of mistake. I was invited to your wedding as a guest, but these people seem to think—" "Show me the invitation list," he snapped at the suited woman. She handed him the iPad with trembling hands. I watched his eyes scan down, then stop. His jaw clenched so tight, I heard his teeth grind. "Vivian," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Why is Clementine Fitzgerald listed under bride and not guests?" Vivian, the suited woman, looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. "Sir, your assistant Margot said to move her from the guest list to the bridal party last week. I assumed—" "Margot." He closed his eyes. "Of course. Excuse me?" I waved my hand. "Can someone please explain what the hell is going on? Where is your actual bride, Mr. Sterling?" He opened his eyes and looked at me with an expression that was equal parts exhausted and irritated. "There is no actual bride, Miss Fitzgerald. There was supposed to be, but she left me 3 days ago. Ran off with her tennis instructor to Monaco. Very cliché." The room went silent. "So this whole wedding," I gestured around, "was supposed to be called off. I sent cancellation notices to everyone, every single guest." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through with increasing anger. Except someone in my office apparently decided to play matchmaker instead of doing their actual job. My brain was trying to process this. "Your assistant moved me from guest list to bride list? Margot has been suggesting for months that I should give you a chance after seeing your design work. Apparently she thought a wedding would be the perfect opportunity." His tone could have frozen the sun. "She's fired, obviously." "Obviously," I echoed weakly. "Mr. Sterling," Vivienne interrupted. "The guests are arriving. The press is outside. If we cancel now, the media storm will be—" "I don't care about the media. Your investors care. Your board cares. After the merger talks with Blackstone Corp, any scandal could—" "Fine," he cut her off, then turned those cold eyes on me. "Miss Fitzgerald, I have a proposition." "No," I said immediately. "You haven't heard it yet." "I don't need to." "Whatever insane thing you're about to suggest, the answer is no. I'm leaving." I turned toward the door, but his next words stopped me cold. $50,000. I turned back slowly. "What?" $50,000 to pretend to be my bride for 3 hours. Smile, say I do, pose for photos, then we quietly annul it next week. No one has to know this was anything but a beautiful mistake. My mouth opened, closed, opened again. "You want me to marry you? For real? For fake? But legally real. Temporarily." He checked his watch. "You have 2 minutes to decide. That's how long until my mother gets here. And trust me, you don't want to be here for that conversation if you're saying no." $50,000. That was enough to pay off my student loans, to quit 2 of my 3 jobs, to finally start my own design business properly. It was also absolutely insane. "This is crazy," I whispered. "Yes," he agreed. "But I'm told you're excellent at making crazy things look elegant. Consider this your most challenging design project yet." I looked at the wedding dress on the mannequin, at Vivienne's pleading expression, at Dominic's cold, calculating face, at my future, hanging in the balance of the most ridiculous decision I'd ever have to make. 60,000, I heard myself say. And you give me 3 referrals to high-end clients. Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe? Done. He extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Miss Fitzgerald? I stared at his hand, at the door, at the life I could have with $60,000. Then I shook his hand. We have a deal, Mr. Sterling. And just like that, I became the accidental bride of Manhattan's most ruthless billionaire. God help me. 23 minutes later, I was standing in a wedding dress that cost more than my annual rent, being poked with pins by 3 different people while someone else applied makeup to my face with the intensity of a Renaissance painter. Hold still, the makeup artist commanded. Kind of hard when I'm having an existential crisis, I muttered. The dress was beautiful, I had to admit. Ivory silk with delicate lace sleeves, fitted at the waist and flowing into a subtle train. It was also apparently meant for someone 3 inches taller and significantly curvier than me. We can take it in here, one seamstress said, pinning the waist. And here, another added, working on the bust. This is insane, I said to no one in particular. I'm getting married to a man who looks at me like I'm a quarterly report, a disappointing quarterly report. Mr. Sterling looks at everyone that way, Vivian said, typing furiously on her tablet. Don't take it personally. How else should I take it? The door opened, and a woman who could only be Dominic's mother swept in. She was elegant in a champagne-colored gown, perfectly coiffed silver hair, and an expression that suggested she'd just tasted something sour. So, she said, looking me up and down, you're the replacement. I'm Clementine, I said, extending my hand awkwardly around the seamstresses. Mrs. Sterling, I presume? Margot Sterling Ashford. She didn't take my hand. And before you get any ideas, young lady, I know exactly what this is. A business arrangement. My son doesn't do love, he does contracts. So whatever fantasy you're spinning in that opportunistic little head of yours, forget it. I blinked. Ma'am, I'm literally being pinned into this dress against my will. The only fantasy I'm having is about my couch and Netflix. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe. Besides, I continued, gaining confidence, your son is the one who propositioned me. I was just here to network. So if anyone's being opportunistic, it's him. Vivian made a choking sound. The seamstresses froze. Margot's lips twitched. It might have been the beginning of a smile. You have spine, she said. That's something. Charlotte didn't have spine. Just a trust fund and a tennis instructor on speed dial. She straightened her shoulders. Fine. Don't embarrass us out there, and we'll survive this circus. She left as dramatically as she'd entered. Did I just win that? I asked. Nobody wins with Margot Sterling Ashford, Vivian said. But you didn't lose, which is impressive. The seamstresses finished their work, and I was finally allowed to look in the full-length mirror. I barely recognized myself. The dress fit perfectly now. My hair was swept into an elegant updo with small white flowers woven through it, and my makeup made me look like a bride from a magazine spread. A bride having a panic attack, but still. I can't do this, I whispered. Yes, you can. Vivian appeared beside me. Look, I know this is crazy, but Mr. Sterling wouldn't have asked if he didn't think you could pull it off. He may be cold, but he's not stupid. That's not as reassuring as you think it is. A knock on the door, and Dominic entered. He stopped when he saw me, and for the first time since I'd met him, his expression wasn't cold calculation. It was something else, something almost human. You look, he started, then seemed to catch himself. Acceptable. Wow. Every girl dreams of being called acceptable on her wedding day, I deadpanned. His jaw tightened. I know what you meant. Let's just get this over with. I grabbed the bouquet someone had thrust into my hands. White roses and peonies, of course. Wait. He pulled a small box from his pocket. You'll need this. Inside was a ring, not just any ring, a massive diamond that caught the light and threw rainbows across the room. Is that real? I breathed. Everything about me is real, Miss Fitzgerald. It's the emotions that are fake. He took my hand. His fingers were warm, which surprised me, and slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. My grandmother's ring. Mother insisted. Your grandmother's... I looked up at him, seeing past the cold exterior for just a moment. Dominic, this is too much. This is family. It's a prop, he cut me off. Like the dress. Like this whole charade. But his voice was slightly softer. The guests are seated. The officiant is ready. Are you? Was I ready to marry a stranger for money? To stand in front of hundreds of people and lie? To wear a dead woman's ring and pretend I belonged in this world of crystal chandeliers and old money? No, absolutely not. But I thought about my studio apartment with the leaky ceiling, about drawing leaves in coffee foam at 4 a.m., about my design portfolio that nobody looked at because I didn't have the right connections. $60,000, 3 referrals, a chance. I'm ready, I lied. He offered his arm. Then let's go disappoint everyone in style. I took it, feeling the solid muscle beneath his expensive tuxedo. You know, for a fake husband, you're surprisingly poetic about failure. For a fake wife, you're surprisingly calm about committing fraud. Is it fraud if we're actually getting married? That's a philosophical question I don't have time to answer. We were walking now, toward the doors that led to the ceremony space. I could hear music, voices, the sound of my future changing forever. Dominic, I said quietly, what if someone asks how we met, how we fell in love? He looked down at me, and for just a second, I saw something in those gray eyes, something that might have been vulnerability. Then we tell them the truth, he said. You redesigned my office. I was impressed. I pursued you relentlessly until you agreed to dinner. 6 months later, I proposed. He paused. It's close enough to reality to be believable. Except for the pursuing me part, and the dinner, and the proposing. Details. The doors were opening. The music swelled. 200 faces turned to look at us, at me, the fake bride in the real dress with the dead grandmother's ring and a contract instead of love. Smile, Dominic murmured. You're about to become Mrs. Sterling. So, I smiled. And I walked toward an altar I'd never imagined standing at, toward a future I couldn't predict, with a man I barely knew. But hey, at least the flowers were beautiful. The ceremony space was obscenely beautiful. White chairs arranged in perfect rows, an aisle lined with rose petals, and an altar covered in cascading flowers that must have required an entire greenhouse. Crystal chandeliers hung from the vaulted ceiling, and through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the Atlantic Ocean sparkled in the afternoon sun. 200 of New York's elite turned to watch me walk down the aisle on Dominic Sterling's arm. I recognized faces from magazine covers, CEOs, socialites, a senator, that actress from the Netflix show Jules was obsessed with, and they were all staring at me like I was a puzzle they couldn't solve. Breathe, Dominic murmured, and stop looking like you're walking to your execution. I'm walking to my fake wedding. It's basically the same thing. Your fake wedding is more elegant than most people's real ones. Show some appreciation for the production value. Despite everything, I almost laughed. Did you just make a joke? I contain multitudes, Miss Fitzgerald. We reached the altar, where an officiant with kind eyes and absolutely no idea he was presiding over a farce waited with an open Bible. Dominic released my arm and turned to face me, taking both my hands in his. His hands were warm, steady. Mine were shaking. Dearly beloved, the officiant began, and my brain started screaming. This was insane. This was fraud. This was... Dominic squeezed my hands gently, and I looked up at him. His gray eyes held mine, and for just a moment, they weren't cold. They were reassuring, almost kind. We are gathered here today to witness the union of Dominic and Clementine. I tried to focus on the words, but my mind was racing. What if someone stood up and objected? What if Jules saw this on social media and had a heart attack? What if anyone here knows any reason why these two should not be wed? Speak now or forever hold your peace. The pause felt like an eternity. I held my breath, half hoping someone would object, would save me from this ridiculous situation. Silence. Of course. Because everyone here thought this was real. Thought Dominic Sterling had actually fallen in love with someone. With me. The officiant continued with the vows, and suddenly Dominic was speaking, his voice clear and confident. I, Dominic Ashford Sterling, take you, Clementine Fitzgerald, to be my lawfully wedded wife. He said the words like he was signing a business contract. Efficient, professional, completely devoid of emotion. Except his hands were still holding mine, and his thumb was moving in small circles against my palm. Nervous habit? Or something else? Then it was my turn. I, Clementine Fitzgerald. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat and tried again. I take you, Dominic Ashford Sterling, to be my lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer. The irony of that line wasn't lost on me. In sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until death do us part. The lies tasted bitter on my tongue. But I'd made a deal. $60,000, 3 referrals, a future. I could lie for 3 hours. The rings, please, the officiant said. A young boy I didn't recognize came forward with a pillow bearing 2 rings. Dominic took the smaller one, a wedding band that matched the enormous engagement ring already on my finger. He lifted my left hand and his eyes met mine again. With this ring, I thee wed. He slid it onto my finger. Perfect fit. Of course it was. Then I took his ring, a simple platinum band that probably cost more than my car, and reached for his hand. It trembled slightly as I held it. Wait. His hand was trembling? I looked up at him, searching his face for any sign of what he was feeling. But his expression was carefully neutral, that mask of cold control firmly in place. With this ring, I said softly, I thee wed. I slid the ring onto his finger, and something shifted in the air between us, something I couldn't name but felt in my chest like a tight knot loosening. By the power vested in me by the state of New York, the officiant announced, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Oh God. I hadn't thought about the kiss. Dominic's hands moved to my waist, and he pulled me closer. Ready for the most expensive kiss of your life? He whispered. That's not romantic, I whispered back. Neither is this marriage. And then he kissed me. I expected it to be cold, professional, a quick press of lips for the cameras. But Dominic Sterling, apparently, didn't do anything halfway. His lips were warm and surprisingly soft against mine. One hand moved to cup my face, gentle but possessive, while the other stayed firm at my waist. The kiss deepened slightly, and for a moment, just a moment, I forgot this was fake. I forgot about the money, the contract, the strangers watching us. I forgot everything except the taste of champagne on his lips and the way my heart was hammering against my ribs. When he pulled back, his eyes were darker than before, pupils dilated. My breath was coming too fast. His chest was rising and falling like he'd just run a marathon. That was, I started. Adequate, he finished, but his voice was rough. Liar. The guests erupted in applause, and suddenly we were married. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, Dominic and Clementine. A billionaire and a barista playing dress-up in the world's most expensive charade. We walked back down the aisle together, his hand firm on my back, guiding me through the sea of smiling faces and raised champagne glasses. 3 hours, he murmured as we reached the doors. Just smile for 3 hours, and then you're free. Free. Except I'd just legally married this man. Except I could still feel his kiss on my lips. Except something in my chest was pulling toward him in a way that had nothing to do with $60,000. Dominic, I said as we entered the reception hall, where more flowers, more chandeliers, and more luxury awaited us. That kiss was for show, he interrupted, his voice back to its cold efficiency. Don't read into it, Miss Fitzgerald. This is business. It's Mrs. Sterling now, I corrected, surprised by the edge in my own voice. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and something flickered across his face. Regret? Confusion? Fear? Yes, he said quietly. I suppose it is. The reception doors opened fully, revealing a ballroom that looked like something out of a fairy tale. Our fairy tale. Our fake, temporary, completely insane fairy tale. Shall we, Mrs. Sterling? Dominic offered his arm. I took it, feeling the weight of the rings on my finger and the echo of his kiss still burning on my lips. Let's get this over with, Mr. Sterling. But as we entered the ballroom to thunderous applause, I couldn't shake the feeling that nothing about this marriage was going to be as simple as we'd planned. The reception was going surprisingly well, which meant I was waiting for disaster to strike. Dominic and I had survived the receiving line, where I'd shaken approximately 200 hands and pretended to remember names I'd never learned. We'd smiled for countless photos, cut a 7-tier cake that probably cost more than my car, and somehow managed to look like a couple who actually knew each other's middle names. You're doing well, Dominic murmured as we sat at the head table, plates of food neither of us was eating in front of us. Better than I expected. Gee, thanks. Your confidence is overwhelming. I meant it as a compliment. You're bad at those. His lips twitched. Was that almost a smile? Apparently, I'm bad at many things. According to Charlotte's farewell letter, I'm emotionally unavailable, work-obsessed, and, he paused, disappointing in bed. I choked on my champagne. She did not write that. Third paragraph. Very detailed. I searched for words. Harsh. That's Charlotte. He took a sip of his whiskey. Though in her defense, it's hard to be good in bed when you're barely in bed. I was working 16-hour days during our engagement. Why? The question slipped out before I could stop it. He looked at me surprised. Why what? Why work 16 hours a day? You're already rich. You've already succeeded. What are you running from? His jaw tightened. I'm not running. I'm building. An empire? A legacy? Or just a really expensive wall between you and actual human connection? For a moment, I thought he might get angry. Instead, he laughed. Actually laughed. It was short and sharp, but real. Did you minor in psychology, Miss Fitzgerald? Mrs. Sterling, I corrected automatically. And no, I just recognize workaholism when I see it. I have 3 jobs, remember? That's different. You need 3 jobs. And you need 16-hour days? Before he could answer, the band struck up a waltz, and the bandleader announced, Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. and Mrs. Sterling for their first dance. Dominic stood, offering his hand. Shall we continue this therapy session on the dance floor? I don't know how to waltz, I hissed. Then follow my lead. Novel concept, I know. He led me to the center of the floor, and suddenly we were alone in a spotlight with everyone watching. His hand found my waist, the other clasped mine, and we began to move. I'm going to step on your feet, I warned. I'm wearing Italian leather. I'll survive. But I didn't step on his feet. Somehow, impossibly, we moved together like we'd been dancing for years. He led with confidence, and my body followed without thought. See, he murmured, you're better at this than you think. At dancing or pretending to be your wife? Both. We spun, and the world blurred around us. For a moment it was just us. No crowd, no cameras, no contract. Just 2 people moving to music, his hand warm on my back, my heart beating too fast. Dominic, I said softly, why did you really ask me to do this? His expression shuddered. You know why. The merger, the investors. No. Why me specifically? You could have paid any actress, any model. Why the girl who decorated your office? He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. Because you're the only person who's ever told me no. I looked up at him, confused. What? The office redesign. You argued with me about every detail. The color scheme, the furniture, the lighting. Everyone else in my life says yes to everything I want. You fought me on shade of gray paint for 20 minutes. It was the wrong gray, I defended. It was perfect. You were right. His eyes met mine. You're always right about design, about aesthetics, about making cold spaces feel warm. He paused. I thought if you could do that to my office, maybe you could make this farce look real. My throat felt tight. That's actually kind of sweet. In a twisted, emotionally stunted way. I contain multitudes, he said again, and this time I did laugh. The song ended and other couples joined us on the floor. Dominic's mother appeared at his elbow, immaculate and imposing. I need to borrow my son, she announced. Family photos. Of course. I stepped back, suddenly cold without his arms around me. But Margot's hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. You too, Clementine. Your family now. For however long this lasts. The photo session was torture. Smile. Look natural. Look in love. Margot's comments were a constant stream of barely veiled criticisms. Tilt your head left, dear. That's your better side. Perhaps stand closer to Dominic. You look like strangers. Try to look less terrified. This is a wedding, not a funeral. Finally, blessedly, it ended. I escaped to the bar, ordering a vodka tonic and drinking it faster than was probably appropriate. That bad, huh? I turned to find a man about my age, handsome in an approachable way that Dominic definitely wasn't, grinning at me. You have no idea, I muttered. Alexander Rothschild. He extended his hand. Old friend of Dominic's. Well, old friend might be generous. We went to Harvard together, which is close enough. Clementine, but I guess you know that. The mysterious bride who appeared out of nowhere. His eyes were curious but kind. Quite the surprise. Last I heard, Dominic was marrying Charlotte Vanderbilt. My stomach dropped. Yes, well, plans change. Clearly, he leaned against the bar. Can I ask you something? And you can tell me to mind my own business. You're going to ask anyway, aren't you? Fair point, he smiled. Do you love him? The question hit me like cold water. We're married. Of course because Dominic Sterling doesn't do spontaneous. He plans everything down to the minute. And you appeared 3 weeks ago in his office for a design consult. I know because I was there. His expression was gentle but probing. So, either this is the fastest courtship in history, or something else is going on. My hands were shaking. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying that if you need a friend in this world, he gestured to the opulent ballroom, it can be lonely. Dominic's world is beautiful but cold. People here eat their young. That's comforting. It's honest. He handed me his card. If you ever need someone to talk to who won't judge or question, call me. Before I could respond, Dominic appeared at my side, his hand possessive on my lower back. Alex, he said coolly, enjoying the wedding. Very much. Your wife is delightful. Alexander's smile was knowing. You're a lucky man. I'm aware. Dominic's voice could cut glass. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have other guests to attend to. He steered me away, his grip firm. What was that about? I asked. Alexander Rothschild is many things, but trustworthy isn't one of them. Stay away from him. He seemed nice. They all seem nice until they're selling your secrets to tabloids. His jaw was tight. This is the world I live in, Clementine. Everyone wants something. Everyone has an angle. Trust no one. Including you? I shot back. He stopped, turning to face me fully. For a moment, vulnerability flickered across his features. Especially me, he said quietly. I'm the worst of them all. And somehow, That honesty hurt more than any lie could have. The reception ended at midnight with a shower of sparklers and rice, and suddenly I was alone with my fake husband in the back of his Bentley, driving through the dark Hamptons roads toward somewhere. "Where are we going?" I asked, suddenly aware that I hadn't thought beyond the ceremony, beyond the 3 hours I'd agreed to. "My house, here in the Hamptons." Dominic loosened his bow tie, looking exhausted for the first time all day. "We need to stay the weekend at least. Appearances." I didn't bring anything. No clothes, no toothbrush. Already handled. Vivienne had your apartment packed and your things sent over. I stared at him. "You packed my apartment? Without asking?" "I had it packed. I wasn't personally going through your underwear drawer, if that's what you're worried about." I sputtered. "You can't just make decisions about my life." "You married me. That rather implies I can." "This isn't a real marriage." The car went silent. The driver pretended not to hear us, eyes fixed on the road. Dominic rubbed his temples. "You're right. I apologize. That was presumptuous." He looked at me, and in the dim light of the car, he looked younger, vulnerable. "I'm not good at this, the whole partnership thing. I usually just make decisions and people follow them." "Well, I'm not people. I'm your wife. Fake or not, you could at least pretend to consider my opinion." "Noted." He was quiet for a moment. "For what it's worth, your things are in the guest room. You have your own space, your own bathroom. I'm not expecting anything." The implication hung in the air between us. Of course he wasn't expecting anything. This was business, a contract. So why did his clarification sting? The house, and calling it a house was like calling the ocean a puddle, was stunning. Modern glass and steel, perched on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, and art that probably cost more than most people's houses. "Let me show you to your room," Dominic said, leading me through hallways that echoed with our footsteps. The guest room was bigger than my entire apartment. King-sized bed with white linens, a sitting area, a balcony with ocean views, and a bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. "Your things are in the closet," he said, hovering awkwardly in the doorway. "If you need anything, I'm down the hall, last door on the left." Dominic. I turned to face him, still wearing the wedding dress, still feeling like I was playing dress-up in someone else's life. "What happens tomorrow?" "Tomorrow?" "When I wake up. What do I do? Where do I go? Am I supposed to just live here now?" He leaned against the doorframe, looking as lost as I felt. "I don't know. I didn't think past today." "You? The man who plans everything? Didn't think ahead? Apparently, you bring out my spontaneous side." His attempt at humor fell flat. "We'll figure it out. Tomorrow. For now, just rest." But he didn't leave. He stood there, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "That kiss," I said suddenly. "Earlier. At the altar." His body tensed. "What about it?" "It didn't feel like business." "Clementine. Clem. Everyone calls me Clem." "Clem." My name on his lips sounded different, softer. "That kiss was for show. It can't be anything else." "Why not?" The question seemed to surprise him as much as it surprised me. Where had that come from? Why did I care? "Because I'm not capable of giving you what you'd want," he said finally. Charlotte was right. I'm emotionally unavailable, work-obsessed. I'd disappoint you just like I disappointed her. I'm not Charlotte. No. His eyes roamed over my face like he was memorizing it. You're not. The air between us felt electric, dangerous. I should step back, laugh it off, remind us both that this was fake. Instead, I stepped forward. "Maybe I don't want what Charlotte wanted," I heard myself say. "Maybe I don't need poetry and romance. Maybe I just need honesty." "Honesty?" He moved closer, and suddenly there were only inches between us. "You want honesty? Fine. I think about that kiss. I've been thinking about it for hours. That's honest enough for you? My breath caught. Dominic, it's the champagne, he said. But he didn't move away. And the stress. And the absurdity of this whole day. Is it? It has to be. But his hand came up to cup my cheek, thumb brushing across my lower lip, and I could see the war in his eyes. Control versus desire. Logic versus feeling. If I kiss you again, he whispered, it won't be for show. I know. It'll complicate everything. I know. We should keep this professional. We should, I agreed. Neither of us moved away. His phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He stepped back, pulling it from his pocket, and his expression shifted from vulnerable to cold in seconds. It's Vivian. The photos are already online. We're trending. He showed me the screen. Pictures of us at the altar, our first dance, cutting the cake. We looked happy, in love, perfect, all lies. Well, I said, my voice shakier than I wanted. Mission accomplished then. Yes, mission accomplished. But he didn't sound triumphant. He sounded tired. Get some rest. We'll talk in the morning about next steps. He left, closing the door softly behind him. I stood in the middle of the enormous room, still wearing the wedding dress, still feeling the ghost of his almost kiss on my lips. Then I saw it. On the nightstand. An envelope with my name on it. Inside was a check for $60,000 and a handwritten note. Your performance exceeded expectations. The 3 referrals will be sent to your email by Monday. Thank you for your professionalism. DS. Professionalism. I looked at the check, enough money to change my life. Then at the note, cold, businesslike, exactly what I'd expected from Dominic Sterling. So why did it feel like a rejection? I changed out of the dress carefully, hanging it in the closet like the expensive costume it was. I scrubbed off the makeup, pulled my hair into a messy bun, and put on my own pajamas, ratty Columbia sweatpants and a coffee-stained t-shirt. This was reality, not wedding dresses and champagne and almost kisses. But as I climbed into the enormous bed, I couldn't stop thinking about the look in Dominic's eyes before his phone rang, the way he'd touched my face, the rawness in his voice when he said he'd been thinking about our kiss. Maybe Charlotte was right about him being emotionally unavailable. Or maybe she just hadn't tried hard enough to find what was underneath all that ice. I fell asleep with that thought. Still wearing his grandmother's rings. Still technically married to a man I barely knew but couldn't stop thinking about. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow I'd figure out what the hell I'd gotten myself into. Tomorrow, everything would be clearer. I had no idea how wrong I was. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. For a blissful moment, I forgot where I was. Then I saw the wedding dress hanging in the closet, and reality crashed back. I was married to Dominic Sterling in his house, wearing his grandmother's rings. I found him on the terrace, sitting at a table overlooking the ocean, laptop open, phone pressed to his ear. He was back in his armor, crisp white shirt, tailored pants, that cold expression that said, "Don't come closer." He ended the call when he saw me. "Coffee?" He gestured to a French press. "Thanks." I poured myself a cup, sitting across from him in my rumpled pajamas, feeling distinctly out of place. "Sleep well?" he asked, not looking up from his laptop. "Fine. You?" "I don't sleep much." The conversation felt like we were strangers. Like yesterday. The ceremony, the dance, that almost kiss, had never happened. "About last night," I started. "Was a mistake," he finished. "I apologize. The stress of the day, the alcohol. You had 1 glass of whiskey." His jaw tightened. "Nevertheless, it was inappropriate. This is a business arrangement. I shouldn't have blurred those lines." The dismissal stung more than it should have. "Right, business. I've already wired the money. The referrals will be in your inbox by this afternoon." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were that cold gray again. All warmth gone. We'll need to maintain appearances for 2 weeks. Then we can quietly file for divorce. Irreconcilable differences. No scandal. 2 weeks? You said, plans changed. My lawyers advised we wait longer than originally discussed. Less suspicious. So I'm supposed to just, what? Live here? Pretend to be your wife? You'll have access to everything. Credit cards, driver, the penthouse in Manhattan. Consider it an extended vacation. He returned to his laptop. I'll be working most of the time anyway. You'll barely see me. Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the dismissive tone. Maybe it was the way he was hiding behind his laptop like a shield. Maybe it was that stupid check that reduced everything to a transaction. You know what your problem is, Dominic? He looked up, surprised. I'm sure you're about to tell me. You're a coward. His eyes flashed. Excuse me? You heard me. You're a coward. You hide behind work and money and that Ice King routine because you're terrified of actually feeling something. Charlotte didn't leave because you worked too much. She left because you wouldn't let her in, and now you're doing the same thing to me. This isn't the same. We're not a real couple. But we could be. The words burst out before I could stop them. Last night, for a moment, we were real. You felt it. I know you did. He stood abruptly, closing his laptop with a snap. You're romanticizing a high-stress situation. This isn't a fairy tale, Clementine. I'm not Prince Charming. I'm exactly what Charlotte said. Emotionally unavailable and disappointing. Only because you choose to be. No. His voice was sharp. Because I am. This is who I am. My father was the same. Married to his work. Distant from his family. My mother raised me alone while he built his empire. I watched her wait for love that never came. I won't do that to someone. So you'll just be alone forever? Better alone than disappointing everyone who gets close to me. The pain in his voice made my anger deflate. I moved closer, but he stepped back. Don't, he said quietly. Don't try to fix me. I'm not one of your design projects. I don't want to fix you. I just want you to be honest. With yourself, if not with me. Before he could respond, his phone rang. He answered it, his face going pale. When? A pause. How bad? Another pause. I'll handle it. He hung up, and when he looked at me, something had shifted in his expression. Fear. What's wrong? I asked. Charlotte gave an interview to Vanity Fair. It's publishing today. My stomach dropped. What kind of interview? He showed me his phone. The headline made my blood run cold. Jilted Iris speaks. Charlotte Vanderbilt claims Dominic Sterling's revenge wedding to mystery woman is a sham. Oh God, I whispered. The article was devastating. Charlotte claimed our marriage was fake, that I was hired to humiliate her, that Dominic was incapable of love. She had receipts, timeline inconsistencies, the fact that I'd only done one project for his company, quotes from sources saying we'd never been seen together before the wedding. This will destroy the merger, Dominic said, his voice hollow. The board will force me out. Everything I've built. We'll fix it, I said. We'll give an interview, show them we're real. How? She's right. We can't prove we're in love because we're not. He laughed bitterly. I've made a mess of everything, and I've dragged you into it. Dominic, I'll pay you more, whatever you want. Just help me through the next few days until I can do damage control. And there it was. Money. That's all this was to him. All I was. Keep your money, I said, pulling off the rings and setting them on the table. I'm done being bought. His head snapped up. What are you doing? Leaving. This was a mistake. You were right. I was romanticizing it. But you know what? I'd rather be broke and alone than rich and invisible. I turned to go, but his hand caught my wrist. Clem, wait. Why? So you can offer me more money? Write another check? No. So I can tell you the truth. I turned back. His face was raw, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. I'm terrified, he said. Of you. Of this. Of how you make me feel. And how do I make you feel? Like maybe I'm not as broken as I thought. His grip on my wrist loosened, became gentle. Like maybe Charlotte was wrong. Like maybe I could be different. With you. My heart was pounding. Dominic, I don't know how to do this. How to be someone's husband, someone's partner. I'll probably screw it up spectacularly. Probably, I agreed. But if you're willing to risk it. He took a shaky breath. I'd like to try. For real this time. No contracts, no money. Just us. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Past the expensive clothes and cold exterior to the scared, lonely man underneath. No more hiding? I asked. No more hiding, he promised. And you'll actually talk to me? Share things? Let me in? I'll try. I can't promise I'll be good at it. I don't need good. I just need honest. He pulled me closer, his other hand cupping my face. Then honestly? I haven't stopped thinking about you since you told me that gray paint was wrong. You were fierce and brilliant and completely unimpressed by me. It was terrifying and fascinating. You're such a weirdo, I whispered, but I was smiling. Is that a yes? To what? To giving this disaster of a marriage a real chance? I looked at the ocean, at the beautiful house, at the man who was finally letting me see him. On one condition, I said. Anything. We redecorate your office. That gray really was terrible. He laughed, really laughed, and kissed me. Not for show. Not for cameras. Just for us. We decided to fight back. Not with lawyers or PR statements, but with the truth. The whole, messy, ridiculous truth. 2 days after Charlotte's interview dropped, Dominic and I sat down with the same journalist, Rebecca Chen from Vanity Fair, and told her everything. How I'd been invited as a guest, the mix-up with the invitation list, the $60,000 deal, the fake ceremony that became something real. You're admitting you paid her to marry you? Rebecca's eyes were wide. I'm admitting I was an idiot, Dominic said, his hand finding mine under the table. I was trying to save face after being left at the altar. Instead, I found something I wasn't looking for. Which was someone who doesn't care about my money or my last name. Someone who argues with me about paint colors and calls me a coward when I'm being one. He looked at me. Someone real. Rebecca turned to me. And you? You're claiming you fell in love with the man who hired you to fake marry him? I'm claiming I fell in love with the man underneath the Ice King act, I corrected. The one who's scared of disappointing people, who works 16-hour days because his father taught him that's what love looks like. Who's trying really hard to be different but doesn't quite know how yet. Dominic's hand tightened on mine. But here's the thing about Dominic Sterling, I continued. When he commits to something, he goes all in. So yeah, this started as a transaction. But somewhere between I do and now, it became real. Messy and complicated and absolutely terrifying, but real. The article published a week later under the headline, The Accidental Marriage That Became the Real Deal. Inside Dominic Sterling's Unconventional Love Story. It went viral. Suddenly we weren't a scandal, we were a fairy tale. The cold billionaire who melted for the right woman. The struggling designer who saw past the money to the man beneath. It was cheesy and overly romantic and not entirely accurate, but it worked. The merger went through. The board backed off. And Charlotte, surprisingly, sent a bouquet of flowers with a note. Congratulations on proving me wrong. Maybe you're not entirely hopeless after all. C. She has terrible handwriting, I commented, reading the note at the breakfast table. She has terrible taste in tennis instructors too, apparently. Saw on page 6 they broke up. Dominic was working on his laptop, but his foot was touching mine under the table. Small intimacy we'd fallen into. You okay with that? With Charlotte being single? He looked up, amused. Clem, I'm married to you. Legally, publicly, and, he closed his laptop, emotionally. Charlotte is my past. You're my present and future. That was almost romantic. Almost. You're still working on a Sunday morning. Romance deduction. He stood, walked around the table, and pulled me into his arms. What if I told you I'm designing something? Designing what? A new office, for you, in my building. Sterling Designs, run by Clementine Sterling. He kissed my nose. I may have already signed the lease, and hired 3 junior designers for you, and commissioned that furniture line you talked about. I pulled back. Dominic, you can't just... I can. I did. But if you hate it, we'll cancel everything. He looked nervous. I just wanted you to have everything you deserve. You're still trying to buy me. I'm trying to support you. There's a difference. But if you'd rather build it yourself, I respect that. I'll cancel. I kissed him, shutting him up. Don't cancel. But next time, ask me first. Deal. He smiled against my lips. I'm learning, slowly. Very slowly, I agreed. But you're worth the wait. 1 year later, the color is wrong. Dominic looked up from his laptop. We were at our Hamptons house, the one we'd unofficially made our real home, and raised an eyebrow at me. You're redecorating again? It's called refining, and yes, this accent wall needs to be warmer. The last 3 accent walls were also wrong, he pointed out. But he was smiling. That smile came easier now. After a year of therapy, individual and couples, and actual work on being emotionally available, Dominic Sterling had learned how to be a husband. He still worked too much, still got cold when stressed, still struggled with vulnerability. But now he talked about it, caught himself, apologized. How was the appointment? He asked, closing the laptop completely. That was new too, actually stopping work when I came home. I sat next to him on the couch, pulling my feet under me. Dr. Martinez says everything looks perfect. Due date is March 15th. His face cycled through shock, joy, and terror in rapid succession. We're pregnant. 12 weeks. I took his hand and placed it on my still flat stomach. Surprise. Clem. His voice cracked. I don't know how to be a father. My own father was terrible at it. What if you're different? What if you're better? I cupped his face. What if you're exactly the father this baby needs? Tears welled in his eyes. Dominic Sterling, the man who never cried, was crying. I love you, he whispered. God, I love you so much it terrifies me. I know. You tell me every day now. Not enough. I'll never say it enough. He kissed me then, gentle and reverent, his hand still on my stomach where our future was growing. My phone buzzed, Jules calling. I'd been avoiding telling her because I knew she'd scream. Should I answer? I asked. Might as well get it over with, Dominic said. Clementine Fitzgerald Sterling, are you pregnant? Jules shrieked the moment I answered. Because Alexander Rothschild just posted on Instagram that Dominic was buying baby books at Barnes & Noble. Dominic groaned. I'm going to kill Alex. Too late, the internet already knows. I'm coming over. I'm bringing wine for me and sparkling cider for you. Don't argue. She hung up. Your best friend is terrifying, Dominic observed. Your best friend can't keep secrets, I countered. Alex isn't my best friend. Who is then? He pulled me closer. You are, obviously. I laughed, settling into his arms, his hand still protectively on my stomach. Outside, the ocean crashed against the cliffs. Inside, we'd built something neither of us expected. A home, a marriage, a life. It started with a wrong invitation and a desperate deal, with a fake ceremony and a business transaction, with 2 broken people pretending to be whole. But somewhere between the lies and the truth, between the contract and the commitment, between the ice and the warmth, we'd found something real. Love wasn't what I thought it would be. It wasn't grand gestures or perfect moments. It was Dominic learning to close his laptop when I came home, It was me learning to accept help without seeing it as control. It was fighting and forgiving and choosing each other every single day. "Hey, Dominic," I said. "Remember when you said I was just acceptable?" He winced. "I'm never living that down, am I?" "Never. But for the record," I looked up at him, at the man who'd terrified and infuriated and completely captured me. "You're pretty acceptable too." He laughed, that full, genuine laugh I'd worked so hard to earn, and kissed me like we were back at that altar. Like we were saying "I do" for the first time. Except this time, we meant it. The end.